in war and in life. Knowing your ground determines whether you rise in victory or fall in defeat. Sun Tzu said, "He who knows the terrain and adapts to it will conquer." In Chapter 10 of The Art of War, Sun Tzu describes 6 kinds of terrainage demanding a different strategy. These terrains are not just landscapes, they are situations. The ground beneath every conflict, be it a literal battlefield, a boardroom, or the digital world we live in. In 1896, during the early battles of the Philippine Revolution, open fields favored the better-armed Spanish troops. The Katipuneros learned the hard way that meeting the enemy head-on on accessible ground meant disaster. So, they shifted tactics, drawing the enemy into forests and mountains. Sun Tzu's lesson: avoid fighting where your enemy's strength can move freely. When Aguinaldo retreated to Biaknabato, he used terrain as a shield. The narrow caves and hidden valleys made pursuit nearly impossible. He controlled the exits, trapping the enemy before they could strike. Modern example, in cybersecurity. This is like luring hackers into monitored systems. Honeypots where they reveal themselves before doing real damage. Some places offer no advantage, like stalemates in political or corporate wars. In such terrain, Sun Tzu says, "Do not fight, move to higher ground." Victory is not about fighting everywhere, it's about knowing when not to fight. Modern example, think of companies that avoid price wars and instead innovate. Apple doesn't compete in low-price markets, they choose their terrain. When General Gregorio del Pila held Tirad Pass against American forces, he knew the terrain was his ally. One narrow mountain road against hundreds of soldiers, he fell a hero. But his defense delayed the Americans and gave Aguinaldo time to escape. Sun Tzu's lesson in narrow passes: hold them if you can. If the enemy holds them, do not assault unless necessary. The Japanese took the high ground in Bataan, forcing Filipino and American troops to fight uphill. The defenders suffered heavily. In terrain, altitude means advantage in battle. And in business, modern example, owning the high ground today means data, networks, or reputation controlling the view others rely on. Even the strongest army weakens when cut off from supply and communication. Sun Tzu warned, prolonged campaigns exhaust the army. Modern example, a startup expanding to fast-opening branches, it can't sustain us, fighting on distant ground. You must strengthen your base before extending your reach. Sun Tzu's wisdom transcends centuries, whether you're a general, a leader, or an entrepreneur. The ground you choose defines your destiny. Know the terrain, know yourself, and victory will never be beyond reach.